Magandang araw and shalom sa bawat isa sa ating mga New Testament survey students sa Pilipinas, sa dako ng Palawan, sa Pangasinan, sa Pampanga, sa Manila, and most of all, shalom sa ating mga students dito sa dako ng Israel. So may the Lord be glorified once again sa pagpapatuloy natin ng ating pag-aaral ng New Testament survey. So lesson 2 na po tayo ngayon, and we will study the Jewish world during the New Testament time. All right? So ito yung ating magiging focus sa ating lesson number 2 this time. So and para sa ating pag-uumpisa, di na po tayo magpapaligoy-ligoy pa para makatipid tayo ng oras. So let's begin sa ating introduction. I hope na patuloy pong madagdagan ang kaalaman ng bawat isa sa New Testament. Lalo na kapag nag-dive deeper na tayo sa mga libro ng New Testament. But for this time, alamin muna natin ang ilang mahalagang backgrounds na malaki ang kinalaman sa panahon ng New Testament. So last time, we studied about the Roman world. And this time, it's all about the Jewish world that is related in the New Testament. Now, sa ating introduction, itong ating masabi, the New Testament relates a story already in progress. So what do we mean by that? Bakit sinabi natin it relates a story already in progress? Kasi the Jewish people or the Israelites, ang story nila ay nagsimula pa ng Old Testament. So kumbaga, continuation na lang itong kasaysayan na ating pag-aaralan sa New Testament. So doon sa mga nakapag-study sa ating Old Testament survey, so praise God, and you are now patuloy niyong makakapture yung mga mahalagang bagay na dapat na matutunan sa salita ng Panginoong Diyos. So, a lot has changed from Old Testament to the New Testament. So, totoo po yan, Kung nabasa mo na ang entire Bible, ang Old Testament and the New Testament, talaga makita mo malaki ang pagkakaiba. Yung genre ng Old Testament, yung focus ng Old Testament, talagang ang laki ng kanilang pagkakaiba. Now, some of the examples of this were seen to the words and phrases used in the New Testament, such as baptism, exorcism, parable, Samaritan, centurion, Gentile, Pharisee, synagogue, crucifixion, hell, rabbi, tax collector, denarius, Jew, Roman, devil, Messiah, and Sadducee. So ito po ilan lang ito sa mga example, ilan ito sa mga terms na binigay natin sa inyo na halimbawa para ma-measure natin or ma-justify, ma-identify na talagang malaki ang pagbabago o transition na naganap from the Old Testament time to the New Testament time. So sa Old Testament, hindi naman natin ma-encounter yung centurion, okay? Hindi rin natin ma-encounter sa Old Testament ang word na Pharisee, ang word na synagogue. Kasi later development na lang itong mga bagay na ito, and we can see this terms na paulit-ulit na ginagamit in the New Testament era. And marami pang iba. The Sadducees, the Messiah. So these terms are not, or we can say this is unknown in the Old Testament. Kaya kapag nadaanan mo yung mga terms na ito sa Bible, kung well-versed ka sa Old Testament at sa New Testament, easily you can identify kung anong panahon nag-exist itong mga terms na ito. So kahit sa ating modernong panahon, may mga words tayo na nag-exist nitong mga bagong panahon lang na noon na mga 1900s, 1980s, hindi naman nagagamit ng mga terms, lalo na ngayon sa panahon ng social media, marami na tayong mga bagong termino na ginagamit na hindi naman alam ng mga tao noon o hindi ginagamit. So talaga mayroong development, mayroong transition na nagaganap, and we can see that happening also from the Old Testament time to the New Testament era. Now, those words or terms na binigay natin sa inyo as an example. So nagde-designate ito ng certain phenomena. Okay? So certain phenomena, and ano yung mga phenomena na ito? Okay? So first, all those terms designate a common phenomena that are mentioned repeatedly in the New Testament. So yung mga words po na minention natin kanina, like yung baptism, Roman, Messiah, Jew, Rabbi, Pharisee, synagogue. These are terms na paulit-ulit o palaging nami-mention sa New Testament, but never itong nami-mention sa Old Testament. Kung meron man doon sa mga example natin na na-mention, very rare lang po yun na na-mention sa Old Testament. Okay? So yan yung designation ng mga terms na yon. Pag sinabi nating phenomena, parang it refers to a particular time or season. So kaya itong mga terms na ito, this belong to the season of the New Testament, sa panahon ng New Testament. And then also, those terms na binigay natin sa inyo as an example, they designate a rare phenomena that are mentioned infrequently in the Old Testament. So kapag sinabi natin rare, so madalang or bihira o baka wala pa nga. And then sinabi natin dyan na that are mentioned infrequently. So talagang halos hindi nababanggit sa Old Testament itong mga words na ito. Okay? Yung salitang Gentile, nakalimutan kong i-check, but it seems na hindi rin nagamit itong word na Gentile in the Old Testament. Kung kung hindi man, kung sakali mang nabanggit ito, i-check natin, Okay, so Gentile. We can see that. All right? Ayan, play natin. So those terms proves that a lot has changed in the biblical world. So kapag sinabi natin biblical world, it refers to the time, the years na nag-fit doon sa biblical era from the Old Testament time way back in Genesis hanggang sa Book of Revelation. So huling libro na isinulat ng lingkod ng Panginoong Diyos. Now, the Israelites of the Old Testament have become the Jews of the New Testament. So totoo po yan, sa Old Testament ay hindi ninyo ma-encounter ang salitang Jews. So hindi yan ginagamit sa Old Testament. Ang malimit na ginagamit ay Israelites. And yung word na Jew, particularly, it came from the tribe of the Judah. So in the Old Testament naman, ang ginagamit ay Judah. Okay, tribe of Judah, hindi Jew. And much has happened to them and to the world in which they live. So talagang marami nang nangyari from the Old Testament hanggang sa New Testament, ang daming events na nangyari diyan. So if you are particulars about empires na nag-reign in power from different eras, so makita nyo talagang very affected ang biblical world ng mga panahon na yan. And iisa-isay natin yung mga empires na yan, hanggang sa mula sa Old Testament hanggang sa New Testament era. Now, so bago natin isa-isayin yun, ito muna yung basic na kasaysayan as a summary lang since natapos na natin ang Old Testament. Okay? So from Old Testament to the New Testament, okay, the Old Testament relates the story from Adam up to the people who identify themselves as God's chosen people. Well, wala nang iba kung sino yung chosen people na yan, kundi ang mga Israelites, descendants ni Jacob, at si Jacob naman ay nagmula kay Isaac, at si Isaac naman ay nagmula kay Abraham, at si Abraham naman ay tinawag ng Panginoong Diyos. So kaya nandyan nga yan, So their story as a God's people began with selection of Abraham and Sarah, with God's decision to have a special relationship with all of their descendants. So wag natin kakaligtaan, ang pinaka-highlight ng Old Testament ay sa Genesis ay kay Adam. Pagkatapos nun ay na-highlight ulit ang isang character, at yan ay walang iba kundi si Abraham, nung siya ay tinawag ng Diyos mula sa Haran para pumarito sa land of Canaan. sa lugar na ibibigay ng Diyos sa kanya at sa kanyang salinlahi. And then God made an everlasting covenant with Abraham, to his descendants, and then to Isaac, and to his descendants, and then kay Jacob, and to his descendants. So kaya hindi kataka-taka na itong nation of Israel ay talagang tinawag na the chosen people of God. Now, bilang katibayan, basahin natin Genesis chapter 12, verse 6 to 9. Okay? Genesis chapter 12, verse 6 to 7, sabi dito, And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. So ito yung time na dumating na si Abram dito sa land of Canaan. Basically, ang naging arrival niya is in Shechem. And nakarating na tayo dyan many times. And should I say, ang Shechem, this is the center of the promised land. This is the heartland of the promised land, because when Abram arrived in the place of Shechem in Elon Moreh, or in the plain of Moreh, God appeared to Abram based on this text, and God spoke unto Abram in verse 7, and God said unto Abraham, Unto thy seed will I give this land, and there builded he an altar unto the Lord who appeared unto him. So take note, the Lord appeared unto Abraham in the plains of Moreh, and said that the people, or the nation of Israel, is God's chosen people, starting from Abraham, their grandfather, because God made a covenant, God made a promise. So the land of Canaan was turned into the land of promise, because God made a promise or covenant to Abraham to give this land to him and to his descendants. And as an affirmation, para ma-trace talaga natin at maging detailed itong kasaysayan na brief history ng Old Testament from Adam to Abraham and to the rise of the chosen people of God and the nation of Israel. I-check natin itong mga covenant na ginawa ng Diyos, or yung affirmation ng Diyos that this land belongs to them. Okay, chapter 13 and then verse 14 to 15. Sabi dito, And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, Lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art, northward and southward and eastward and westward. So 4 directions. God pointed Abraham in the 4 directions, northward and southward, eastward and westward. And God said, For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. So take note, ang word na forever. That's why we say, this land of Canaan, which was promised by God to Abram, this is an everlasting inheritance of the Israelites. Because God said to Abraham, I will give it to you and to thy seed. Take note the word forever. This is an everlasting inheritance of the nation of Israel. God is a creator, and he has all the rights. He has the sovereign authority and power to give this land to whomsoever he will. So God, the creator of the world, gave this tiny piece of land to Abraham and to his descendants forever. So take note of that and never ever forget. So no matter what happened to this tiny piece of land of Israel, no matter how many empires came and empires conquered this land of Israel, it remains God's gift to the nation of Israel, to the descendants of Abraham. So that's it. And then chapter 17, verse 17 and 18. Okay, God said, Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto you. So Abram, go and walk. And God said, I will give it unto thee. So again, for the 3rd time, God said, I will give it unto thee. He never gave this land to the Canaanites. The Canaanites, the descendants of Ham, they only came in this land. Okay, it's it seems that they are like a squatter occupying this land in the ancient of days when nobody or no one yet living in this land. But then, despite they are living already in this land, God still have the rights to give whomsoever he likes to give this land. And he said, I will give it to thee. Then Abraham removed his tent and came and dwelt in the land of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. So that's it. Okay, so that means he walked from its particular places here in the land of Canaan. And since God said, walk through the length of it, and I will give unto thee. So all those places that was mentioned here, particularly during the journeys of Abraham in the entire land of this Canaan, it was given unto him and to his descendants. And then chapter 15, verse 18 and 21, chapter 15 of Genesis, verses 18 to 21, it says, in the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river of Euphrates. Take note, it's already in past tense. Unto thy seed have I given this land. So God already made a verdict. Okay? So tapos na, binigay na ng Diyos itong lupang ito sa salinglay ni Abraham. And this is the fourth time na sinabi ng Diyos na ibibigay niya ang lupang ito kay Abraham at sa kanyang salinlahi. In the 19, and the Kenites and the Kenizzites and the Cadmonites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Rephaims and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites. So these particular tribal names that were mentioned in this passage, these are the tribes of Ham, descendants of Ham, that are living in the land, in this particular land, tiny piece of land. And God affirmed to Abraham that he will give this to him and to his descendants. So just for the record, to establish the history of God's chosen people from Abraham. And then verse 26, chapter 26, it says from verse 2 to 5, and the Lord appeared unto him and said, go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. So God is speaking to Isaac. So God prevented Isaac to go into Egypt like his father Abraham. And then verse 3, God said, sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries. So which country? These countries, the Kenites, the Girgashites, the Canaanites, and all those tribes that we mentioned a while ago in verse 18 to 21 of chapter 15. So like what the Lord said to Abraham in the beginning, he said, walk through the length of it, and I will give this land to you. So God is saying the same thing to Isaac, sojourn in this land, or journey in this land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee. For unto thee I will, for unto thee and unto thy seed, take note, unto thy seed, I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. So could you imagine? So God reaffirmed the same promise of land inheritance to the second generation, and that is to Isaac, the son of Abraham. So no question asked. It's loud and clear that God chose the descendants of Abraham to receive this tiny piece of land. And then after Abraham comes Isaac, and then after Isaac came Jacob. Okay, where is that? In verse chapter 28. And then verse 13 and 14. What does it say? According to the Bible, it says, and behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. And the land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. So God made himself known to Jacob this time. So God revealed himself to Jacob, saying, I am the God of Abraham, your grandfather, and also of Isaac, your father. And God said, the ground or the land where thou liest, to thee will I give it. Now, basically, this event happened in Bethel. So God says to Jacob, I will give this land to you and your descendants. And Bethel is the second place in the land of Canaan where Abraham came after Elon Moreh. And this is the second place wherein he built an altar. So that's Abraham. So now we can see the story, the summary. There's the highlight of the fall of man during the time of Adam. And then we have Noah, and the highlight is the great flood. And then after Noah, another famous Bible character that was being highlighted, no other than Abraham. And then we capture the story that God chose Abraham and his descendants to receive this tiny piece of land. So from Old Testament to the New Testament, so hindi pa tayo tapos dyan. What's next? Abraham's descendants were organized into 12 tribes. Okay, so Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob. Jacob have 12 sons. And they were known as the 12 tribes, but were known usually as the children of Israel. So these 12 tribes, they were known as children of Israel instead of children of Jacob. Because the name of Jacob was changed by God into Israel first when Jacob wrestled with God in Padan Aram. So God blessed him and God changed his name into Israel. And God reaffirmed the changing of names or the changing of name of Jacob into Israel while he was in Bethel. Okay, we've been there, I think 2 weeks ago, and we stepped exactly on the place where Jacob have a dream of a ladder going up to heaven, and also that's the very place in the land of Canaan where God reaffirmed the changing of his name into Israel. So from then on, when God changed the name of Jacob into Israel, so his children was called the children of Israel instead of children of Jacob. But then they became slaves in Egypt, and God called Moses to deliver them. And God, through Moses, through the life of Moses, God gave them the Torah, or the Pentateuch, or we called it the first 5 books in the Old Testament: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And then God led them to the promised land. And what is that? The land of Canaan that was promised by God to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So the reason why God is bringing them back once again, although hundreds of years have passed already in this particular land of Canaan, because this is the only piece of land that God promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So this will be their destination. But later on, this tiny piece of land, when the Roman conquered it, they changed the name of this place, and they called it Palestine. So that was during the time of Romans. So Palestine is not original name of this place. It was a name given during the time of the Romans. So you can check that in the history. Even Wikipedia and Google will gonna give you information about the beginning or the year, the approximate year when this land was called Palestine. So kaya doon sa mga galit sa Israel, you should know the story better, and they can consult a lot of dictionaries and histories and the Wikipedias in Google about this term. Now, here they became a significant nation that reached its high point under King David around 1000 BCE or before Christ era. So they built a magnificent temple, but subsequent centuries were marked by division and decline. So ito yung nakakatuwa, no? Kasi nung naganap ang Exodus sa panguna ni Moses, and then nagpatuloy ang kanilang pag-conquer ng land of Canaan as a fulfillment of God's promise. God goes before them and God used Joshua hanggang sa ma-establish ang mga Israelites dito, and then nagkaroon ng mga judges hanggang sa nagkaroon ng mga kings, at sa panahon nga ni David talagang naging makapangyarihang bansa ang Israel, and nagkaroon ng malawakang kapayapaan sa panahon ni David at ni Solomon, at walang nakipagdigma sa kanila. But sad to say, paglipas ng mga taon at panahon, dahil hindi naging tama ang puso ng mga sumunod na hari ng Israel. So yung pang-apat na hari ng Israel, na anak ni King Solomon, si Rehoboam, ay na-divide ang kingdom. Nagkaroon ng Northern Kingdom and ng Southern Kingdom, and fast forward, ang mga pinuno ay naging makasalanan, lumayo sa Diyos, especially the Northern Kingdom. That's why God sent a nation according to His warning in the book of Deuteronomy, that if they will turn their back from God, God will raise a nation from afar to conquer them and to punish them. So ginamit ng Diyos ngayon ang Assyrians para parusahan ang Northern Kingdom, and later on, about 100 years, ay nasakop din ng Babylonians ang Southern Kingdom, dahil naging masama na rin ang kanilang mga hari. So that's the basic story. And then pagkatapos nung mga panahon na yon, karoon ng exile sa Babylonian, and then nagkaroon ng mga remnants na nakabalik dito, na rebuild ang temple sa panahon ni Ezra, ang walls of Jerusalem sa panahon ni Nehemiah, and then marami pang mga kaganapan hanggang sa nagkaroon ng tinatawag nating intertestamental period of silence from the Old Testament to the New Testament, hanggang sa bumulagan na lang ang New Testament sa atin sa pamamagitan ni John the Baptist, na kumihiyaw sa wilderness. Then maliban dyan ay yung kasaysayan ng kapanganakan ng Panginoong Kristo. So this is the story, mga kapatid. Yan yung pagpasok sa New Testament. Medyo lumalapit-lapit na tayo sa ating pag-aaral at pagtutok sa mga libro. Pero bago iyon, daanan pa natin itong mga empires from Old Testament to the New Testament period. Okay? So empires from Old Testament to the New Testament period. So isa-isay natin ito para mas masundan pa natin ang transition from Old Testament to the New Testament world. Una sa lahat, as I mentioned to you, dahil na-divide ang United Kingdom ng Israel into Northern and Southern Kingdom, and yung kanilang mga naging pinuno o yung mga naging hari nila ay naging masama o makasalanan sa harap ng Panginoong Diyos. So nag-raise ang Diyos na mga bansa na sakop sa kanila. So tandaan natin, napakalaki talaga ng role na ginagampanan ng bawat pinuno ng isang bansa kung mapapabuti ba o mapapasama sa harap ng Diyos ang kanilang mga nasakupan. Remember, sabi sa Old Testament, sabi ni King Solomon sa Book of Proverbs, when the righteous is in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rise into power, the people mourn. So matindi ang pinagdaanan ng mga Israelites, especially ng Northern Kingdom, sa kamay ng kanilang mga naging pinuno na hindi makadiyos. So dahil dyan, ay kinastigo sila ng Panginoong Diyos, and God sent the Assyrians, the Assyrian Empire. So this empire reigned from approximately 721, in some historical books 722, to 587 BCE. Okay, 587 before Christ era. The Assyrian realm is generally considered to be the world's first true empire, stretching from Egypt and Turkey in the west to Iran in the east. The northern kingdom of Israel was captivated in 721 BC, while Judah became a client state. So anong ibig sabihin yan? So kaya siya tinawag na the first true empire, kasi nga kapag tinawag kang imperyo, ibig sabihin malawak ang iyong land territory, and may mga bansa kang nasakop and napaka makapangyarihan mo or napakalakas mo. So itong Persian Empire, so talagang nag-expand sila, nasakop nila ang Egypt, and you can try to look in the map, napakalaki ng land area ng Egypt. Also the Turkey, napakalaki rin ng land area ng Turkey, and nasakop ito ng Assyrian Empire. Now basically, ang location ng Assyria ay nasa upper part ng Babylon, okay? Which is sa modern time natin ay part na ito ng Iraq, okay? Sa upper part ng Iraq, katabi ng Turkey. And then according sa history o sa kasaysayan, nasakop ng Assyrians ang Northern Kingdom, which composed of 10 tribes. Actually, ang dahilan naman kung bakit nasakop ang 10 tribes or yung Northern Kingdom, talagang ang Diyos mismo behind the scene ay ni-raise up niya ang Assyrian Empire to execute judgment to His chosen people. Kasi nga, they became wicked, they worship Baal, and Baal in Assyria is very particular pagan god in the northern region. So when you study the kings of the Northern Kingdom, very familiar sila sa pag-worship kay Baal. No wonder, si King Ahab ay talagang hinarap siya ni Prophet Elijah, and pinagsabihan nga siya na hanggang nabubuhay ang Diyos, diniklara niya na hindi magkakaroon ng ulan, maging hamog. Di ba? At nangyari nga, kaya galit na galit si King Ahab. But then, yun nga, ang problema, napakarampant ng pagan worship, Baal worship in the Northern Kingdom. So God used the Assyrian Empire to execute His judgment to His chosen people, basically in the Northern Kingdom, at hindi kasama ang Judah kasi may mga godly kings pa dito sa throne of Judah. And ang nangyari lang, they became a client state. So ang nangyari, hindi nga sila sinakop, wipe out, but they are paying tribute or taxes to the Assyrian empires. Nang sa ganun, hindi sila salakayin nito. So ayan yung nangyari sa Northern Kingdom. Okay, patuloy natin. So sa panahon na yan, ng Assyrian empire or period, mga famous na mga kings na na-mention dyan sa kasaysayan, even in the Bible, ay si Shalmaneser III, Adad Niraro III, and si Tiglath-Pileser III, Shalmaneser V, and si Sargon, King Sargon. So may encounter nyo itong mga hari na ito sa pag-aaral ng kasaysayan ng Assyrian Empire. So, sa panahon na additional sa panahon ng Assyrian Empire, dahil nasakop nila ang Northern Kingdom, so ang ginawa nila ay in-exile nila ang mga naiwan na remnants ng 10 tribes. So dinala nila yan sa Assyria, at yan yung tinatawag na diaspora ng 10 tribes. And later, according sa history, ay nag-vanish na itong 10 tribes. Hindi na malaman kung anong nangyari sa nila. So merong mga speculations na itong remnants ng 10 tribes na na-exile sa Assyria ay nakipag-intermarriage sa mga locals doon or sa ibang lahi, kaya hindi na sila matrace. So, kumbaga, polluted na yung kanilang generation, wherein ang pinakamahalagang bilin ng Diyos sa Old Testament sa panahon ni Moses sa batas ay wag na wag silang mag-asawa ng hindi nila kalahi o katribo. And aside from that, sabi ay merong mga ilang remnants na naiwan din dito, hindi na-exile sa Assyria. So yung mga yun naman ay nakapag-asawa din ng iba't ibang mga lahi, especially yung mga settlers na dinala dito ng Assyrians. So kaya nagkaroon ng intermarriages. And no wonder na hindi na-preserve yung kanilang bloodline. And nang dahil dyan ay halos hindi na sila matrace talaga sa kanilang science. So walang malinaw na historical account or records patungkol dito sa 10 tribes ng Israel na sinakop ng mga Assyrians. The reason for the conquest of the Assyrians dito sa Northern Kingdom Walang iba kundi yung wickedness ng mga pinuno at damay-damay yung mga nasakupan nila sa kanilang kasamaan. Sumunod rin sa ginagawa nilang pagan worship o yung Baal worship. What else? So pagkatapos niyan, so after ng 134 years na pag-reign into power ng Assyrian Empire, then came the Babylonian Empire, at ito yung tinatawag nating Babylonian period. So when does it begin? From 587 approximately hanggang 537 BCE. Islika, pakilagay na lang BCE, baka malito kayo, So 587 to 537 BCE. So that's only 50 years. And sabi nga, ito ang pinaka maikli na period ng isang makapangyarihan or malakas na empire na nag-rise nung unang panahon. 50 years lang. So kasi ang Assyrian ay nasa 134 years. Ito naman ay nasa 50 years. So in 612 BC, the Assyrian Empire was overthrown by the Babylonians, who forged an even larger and more powerful, more corrupt, and more short-lived empire. So si King Nebuchadnezzar, napakagaling niya rin if you will study his biography. He is also one of the great conqueror, one of the great warrior. Kaya ano din yun siya rightful person sa salitang the great Nebuchadnezzar the Great. Kaya lang he became so prideful person. That's why God put him down also. Binagsak din siya ng Panginoong Diyos. So the Babylonians absorbed almost all of the old Assyrian territory. And in around 586 BC, they conquered the southern kingdom of Judah. So yung again, ang Southern Kingdom, it's composed of 2 tribes. Yung Northern, it composed of 10 tribes. Ang Southern Kingdom naman, it composed of Judah, tribe of Judah, and the tribe of Benjamin. So sinakop sila ngayon ng Babylonian. If you are familiar with the account of King Hezekiah, nung siya ay gumaling sa kanyang karamdaman and in-extend ng Diyos ng 15 years ang kanyang buhay, so, bumisita, okay? Merong bumisita dito ng mga representative ng Babylonians. And ang ginawa ni King Hezekiah, pinakita niya ang lahat ng bahagi ng temple, even yung portion na hindi dapat makita ng mga strangers. So, dahil dyan ay pinarusahan ng Panginoong Diyos si King Hezekiah. At sabi nga, nasasakupin ng Babylon ang Jerusalem as a consequence ng kanyang pagkakamali. Pero nag-request naman si King Hezekiah, sabi niya, kumbaga, wala akong magagawa kung yan talaga ang kaparusahan ng Diyos na ginawa sa akin. Pero kung maaari lang, sabi niya, mangyari na ang bagay nito sa panahon na hindi na siya yung hari, wala na siya. So, grinant naman ng Diyos kahit pa paano yung kanyang request. Kaya paglipas ng ilan pang generation ng hari, naganap ang pananakop ng mga Babylonians dito sa Southern Kingdom or sa Jerusalem. So winasak nila King Nebuchadnezzar ang Jerusalem. So that's the first time na na-destroy ang first temple o ang temple na pinagawa ni King Solomon in Jerusalem. So totally wiped out, totally burned ang temple na pinagawa ni King Solomon. So sayang. And aside from that ay ninakaw at kinuha ang mga mahalagang kagamitan sa loob ng temple, baging yung mga nakabalot na mga ginto, mga silver, sa iba't ibang bahagi ng temple, and yung mga kagamitan na made of golds at silver, kinuha talaga ng mga Babylonians at dinala nila sa Babylon. Sa panahon ni Ezra at saka ni Nehemiah, mababasa ninyo sa panahon ni King Cyrus the Great. So mayroong mga ibinalik na mga kagamitan ng temple doon sa panahon na may mga remnants na bumalik dito sa Jerusalem. Sa panahon ng Babylonian, si King Nebuchadnezzar ang pinaka main character natin dito sa empire na ito. And then nagkaroon din ng exile or yung diaspora na sinasabi natin ng 2 tribes papunta ng Babylon. Kung ang remnants o yung natitirang lahi na hindi namatay doon sa paglusob ng mga Assyrians, nadala sa Assyria, ito namang Southern Kingdom, yung remnants nila, yung hindi napatay sa paglusob nila King Nebuchadnezzar, ay dinala nilang bihag sa Babylon. So ayan, tribes of Judah and tribes of Benjamin, and makita natin dyan ang mga famous character natin sa panahon ng Babylonian Empire, walang iba kundi si Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Anong dahilan kung bakit pinasakop din sila sa Babylonians ng Diyos? Because of the wickedness of their kings, and also yung mistake na ginawa ni King Hezekiah for showing everything sa mga envoy na pinapunta ng Babylonian ruler. So 50 years later, Cyrus of Persia, this will be the third empire, allowed the people now called Jews to return and build a new temple which was dedicated in 515 BCE and much later destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE. So ayan, linawin lang natin ang Babylonian Empire, short-lived lang sila, 50 years. So nagapi sila ng Persian Empire. So sa panahon ng Persian Empire, in-stir up ng Diyos ang heart ni King Cyrus. Mabasa ninyo yan sa book particularly book ni Nehemiah. Pinalambot ng Diyos ang puso ni King Cyrus, and grinant niya ng opportunity na makabalik yung mga natitirang remnants ng Judah and Benjamin sa lugar ng Babylon na makabalik na sa Jerusalem. So, yung mga remnants na ito ng tribe of Judah at Benjamin, diyan nag-umpisa ang terminong Jews. But primarily, as tumutukoy ito doon sa tribe of Judah kaysa sa tribe of Benjamin. So ayan, kaya prior sa time ng Persian Empire, non-existing pa ang word na Jew. So kaya sabi ko sa inyo, very rare or hindi madalas na mini-mention itong term na ito sa Old Testament kasi it never existed in the Old Testament, maliban na lang nung pumasok na itong kapanahunan ng imperyong Persian para sa mga remnants ng tribe of Judah and Benjamin. Okay? So when the Jews came back, you can read in our Old Testament survey na pag-aralan natin. So si Ezra ang naging pasimuno sa pag-rebuild ng temple, and then si Nehemiah naman ang naging pasimuno sa pag-rebuild ng broken walls of Jerusalem. The second temple or yung temple was restored during the time of Ezra, and they dedicated it once again sa Diyos noong 515 BC or before Christ. Pero sad to say, after ng Persian, dumating ang Greeks, and then after ng Greeks, dumating naman ang Hasmoneans, and then after ng Hasmoneans na mag-reign into power, ang Romans naman nag-reign into power, and pagdating ng taong 70 CE or 70 years during a Christ era, ay dinestroy nila yung second temple that was reestablished during the time of Ezra. Thus, the span of Jewish history from 515 BCE to 70 CE is often referred to as the Second Temple period. So tandaan natin yan, 515 BCE to 70 CE, yan ay tinatawag na Second Temple period. Kasi from the time of Ezra na na-rebuild ang temple o yung Second Temple, it was destroyed by the year of 70 CE. Winasak ito ng mga Romans dahil crush out nila yung mga Jewish rebels. And ayan, yung temple ay nasira, naapektuhan. So how many years is that? So 515 plus 70. So that would be 585 years. So the Persian period. So nagkaroon na tayo ng overview doon kay King Cyrus sa later part ng Babylonian Empire. So now let's deal with the Persian Empire. In the 8th century BC, an even larger empire was taking shape farther to the east. The first Persian kingdom under the Medes overthrew the Babylonians and absorbed its territories, including Israel. So dahil nasakop na ng Babylon ang Israel, pabagsak ng Persians ang Babylonians, so lahat ng territory nila ay na-absorb ng Persian Empire. These were passed on to the Achaemenids, who built the largest empire to date, and under whom Israel was a client state. So ayan, so kapag pinag-usapan ang Persian Empire, particularly ay may encounter ninyo yung term na Achaemenids. Not only that, yung Medes, okay? Yung tinatawag nating Medes. All right, so these are ethnic groups belonging to the Persian Empire, and they became a powerful noong mga kapanahunan na iyan. Ano yung mga ilang bagay na dapat nating manotice dito sa panahon ng Persian Empire? Okay. Si King Cyrus, ang hari nung magapi nila ang Babylonians, and God used him to grant freedom or access para makabalik yung mga ilan sa mga remnants ng Jew and remnants ng Judah and Benjamin from Babylon going back here in Jerusalem para i-rebuild ang kanilang city at ang kanilang temple. So sa panahon na ito ng Persian Empire, according sa history, the Jewish nation was ruled by high priests with minimal interference from the Persian kings. So nung bumalik na itong mga remnants yung mga remnants dito sa Jerusalem, ang namumuno sa kanila ay mga priest or yung high priest. Kasi sa religious aspect ng mga Jew, ang kanilang kinikilalang leader ay high priest. So wala na silang king, wala silang ruler. So ang namumuno sa kanila ay high priest. Now sa panahon ni Ezra, isa siya sa kinikilalang leader kasi isa siya sa remnant na bumalik dito na maraming karay-karay ng mga remnants from Babylon. Sumunod nandyan din si Zerubbabel, okay? Zerubbabel and then si Nehemiah. And then, ano pang nangyari? Hindi sila halos pinapakialamanan ng Persian king noong mga panahon na yon. Sa time ni Ezra, marami siyang mga request, pati mga cedars from Lebanon at kung ano-ano pa. It was granted by King Cyrus. Talagang pinalambot ng Diyos ang puso ni King Cyrus. And yung mga kagamitan, mga materialis na kailangan ni Nehemiah ay naipagkaloob. Now, it was at this time that synagogues emerged as a significant sites for teaching and worship. Now, listen carefully dito sa bagay na ito, no? Mahagip natin ito sa inyong quiz. Sa panahon ng Persian Empire, dito na-establish yung mga tinatawag na synagogue as a significant sites for teaching and worship. Bakit? Kasi maraming mga remnants sa Babylon, hindi na sila bumalik dito sa Jerusalem. So kung sina Ezra bumalik dito para i-rebuild ang temple, marami na rin hindi bumalik dito sa Israel. At itong mga to, ang isa sa naging dahilan, dahil malayo sila sa kanilang center of worship o yung temple for worship. So dito nag-emerge ngayon ang tinatawag nating mga sinagoga. So walang temple sa Babylon, walang temple. So they built a synagogue to become a substitute for their temple. So the Jews became increasingly focused on faithfulness to Torah as the hallmark of their religion. Sa temple, basically sa temple nung Old Testament, manunotice ninyo, they are more focused on the offerings and sacrifices. But since maraming remnants ang malayo sa temple, and naging dahilan nito para mag-arise ang pagkakaroon ng mga synagogue, so sa synagogue, hindi na nabigyan ng importansya yung mga offerings and sacrifices. So nangyari, ang naging focus nila ngayon ay yung Torah. Pagbabasa ng Torah, pag-aaral ng Torah, and ito yung naging center of life nila o yung naging hallmark ng Judaism. Ano nga to? Kaya nga hanggang sa panahon ngayon, makikita natin na talagang hindi na more on sacrifices ang ginagawa ng mga Jew dito sa Israel. I think parang hindi na rin yata nila in-observe sa Yom Kippur nila yung pag-offer ng lamb at saka yung scapegoat. Pero yung mga Samaritans, in-observe pa rin nila yan hanggang sa ngayon. So, ang manunotice ninyo, karamihan ng Jew ngayon, kapag may mga celebration sila, even yung Yom Kippur, the holiest day nila, they went to the Western Wall in the synagogues, and what's the focus? The prayers and the law of Moses o yung Torah. Hindi na yung mga sacrifices. So, sino-sino yung mga important person sa panahon na ito ng Persian, maliban kay Cyrus the Great? Siyempre, nandyan si Ezra, nandyan si Nehemiah, si Zerubbabel, and also si Mordecai and si Esther. Pero hindi natin pag-aralan yan dito. Okay, dinaanan lang natin ito. Parang nagre-review tayo ulit ngayon ng ating Old Testament survey. So pagkatapos ng Persian Empire, so nag-rise into power ngayon itong Greeks, approximately 322 hanggang sa 167 BCE. So matagal-tagal din, ano? 134 years ang Assyrian Empire. And then, ang Babylonia naman ay 50 years. Ang Persian Empire ay 205 years. And then, itong Greek or Hellenistic Empire ay umabot ito ng 165 years. So, matagal din, ano? Ayan. So, in 334 BC, Alexander the Great led the greatest war of conquest in ancient times. He conquered the Persia. So imagine, napakalakas ng Persia, no? Pero napabagsak din nila. Talagang masasabi natin na panapanahon lang at pagkakataon. Panapanahon lang at pagkakataon. But syempre, meron tayong pinangawakan sa Bible. Sabi nga sa Book of Daniel, God set up kings and God put down kings. So ang Diyos pa rin ang nagtataas at nagbababa o nagbabagsak ng isang hari. Ang puso ng hari ay hawak pa rin ng Diyos. Alright, so ang Diyos pa rin ang may final say, may directives. So one empire rise up and then it goes down and then another empire will come. Babagsak na naman ito and then another empire will rise up. So pangatlo na, itong Hellenistic Empire or yung Greek Empire. Greek na lang, mas madaling bigkasin. Conquered the Persia in extensive additional territories as well. So, ang lawak, okay? So, bawat empire, palawak ng palawak ang territories na kanilang nasakop. So, itong Greek, mas lalong lumawak pa ang kanyang territory sa Persian Empire. Israel, which had enjoyed a brief period of autonomy under the Achaemenids, became part of Alexander's empire. So, ayan, bahagi na sila ngayon ng Imperyo ni Alexander. So nakakatuwa, no, kasi si Alexander the Great ay nakarating dito sa bansang Israel at ang pinaka naging port of entry niya ay walang iba kundi sa Akko. Ayan. So nasa Akko. Kinakailangan yung marating ang city ng Akko. So ilalabas natin dito sa ating video yung Akko para magkaroon kayo ng idea. And at the same time, yung Akko na yan sa New Testament period, ayan din yung lugar na dinaanan ni Apostle Paul. Okay. So ngayon, sabi sa kasaysayan ay bata pa nung mamatay itong si Alexander the Great. So nasa early 30s lang siya. Sabi nga, nalungkot nga daw si Alexander the Great kasi sabi niya, wala na siyang lugar o territories na sasakupin pa kasi lahat nasakop niya na. Okay? So ngayon, anong nangyari? Nagkasakit itong si Alexander the Great. And to make it short, siya ay namatay. So ano nangyari? Ang kanyang kingdom ay na-divide sa ilan sa kanyang mga generals. So dalawa dyan ay nakilala. Number one, si Ptolemy. Si Ptolemy. So periods after Alexander's death. So yan, nag-umpisa tayo. 332. Okay? So 10 years, 12 years lang. So namatay na si Alexander the Great. Sa ano nangyari? Ano nangyari? So, na-divide yung kanyang empire. So, itong nangyari, Israel came first to be part of the empire of the Ptolemies o si Ptolemy, whose power was centered in Egypt. So, kailan yan? 320 hanggang sa 198 BCE. So, yan, itong si Ptolemy, okay, Ptolemy the First Soter was a Greek general, historian, and companion of Alexander the Great of the kingdom of Macedon in northern Greece, who became ruler of Egypt. O, yan. Kasi ang Egypt nasakop din ng Greek Empire. So, nasakop ng Babylon. Nasakop ng Persian, nasakop din ng Babylon, and then nasakop ng Persians, nasakop din ng Greek Empire. So, pasa-pasa lang kung ano yung mga lugar na nasakop ng bawat imperyo. Ito yung information about kay Ptolemy, na naging pinuno ng Ptolemaic Empire. Greek pa rin yan. Kasi si Ptolemy, he is a general and historian na kasama ni Alexander the Great. And then, ang center of power nitong Ptolemaic Empire or ni Ptolemy ay nasa Egypt. Kaya nga ayon sa kasaysayan, siya itinuturing na the first Greek pharaoh. The first Greek pharaoh. So itong word na Ptolemy ay may encounter niyo ito sa Book of Acts, And ginamit ito sa napangalan ng lugar ng Ako as Ptolemies. Okay, sabagat nasakop ito ni Ptolemy. So kailan yan? Ptolemy was a pharaoh of Ptolemaic Egypt from 305 or 304 BC hanggang sa kanyang kamatayan. So periods after Alexander's death, so nandyan din naman yung tinatawag nating panahon ng mga Seleucids. Then it became part of the empire of the Seleucids, whose power was centered in Syria. Bumagsak ngayon itong si Ptolemy o yung Ptolemaic Empire, humina, and then lumakas naman itong Seleucids. Ang word na Seleucids ay nagmula sa pangalan ni Seleucus, and he served as an officer of Alexander the Great. Take note, he served as an officer of Alexander the Great, commanding the elite infantry corps in the Macedonian army, and they are known as the shield bearers, later known as the silver shields. So ito na, alam niyo yung may mga cover dito na malaki, parang sa Spartans, Sa Spartans. So itong si Seleucus, siya yung in charge doon sa mga pinakamagagaling na army nila. Dahil dyan, pagdating nung year 1998, sa kanyang pamumuno, and dahil rin siya ang in charge doon sa magigiting at malalakas na kawal ni Alexander the Great na naiwan sa kanyang command. So, ayan yung nangyari. He rise into power, and then ang pinaka-naging center ng kanyang leadership ay sa Syria. And then, syempre, meron din silang say dito sa bansang Israel. Now, ito very important trivia. So one of the Seleucid rulers, Antiochus the Fourth Epiphanes, wala akong makita ang ibang picture niya, yan lang. So itong si Antiochus the Fourth Epiphanes, noong namayagpag noong 175 to 164 BCE, he sought to exterminate the Jewish religion by inflicting horrible atrocities on anyone who professed or practiced the faith. Nakakalungkot, Kasi itong si Antiochus, naging malupit siya sa mga Jew. Ayaw niyang bigyan ng kapahintulutan na malayang makapag-practice ng paniniwala itong mga Jew. So kaya ginawa niya, as much as possible, talagang gusto niyang patayin, okay? Pahirapan yung mga Jew noong kanyang kapanahunan. So yan yung naging dahilan kung bakit nagkaroon ng mga rebuilding mga Hudyo. At nang dahil dyan, pumasok ngayon ang tinatawag nating the Hasmonean period. So sila yung mga nag-aklas laban dito sa Seleucids. Okay, kay Antiochus IV. Okay, Antiochus IV Epiphanes. Now, Hasmonean period, when the Jews were prohibited from practicing Judaism and their temple was desecrated by Antiochus as part of an effort to impose Greek-oriented culture. So tandaan natin Griego din itong si Antiochus kasi nga yung Seleucid ay Seleucus na pinagmulan ng Seleucid Empire, Greek din siya and siya ay officer ni Alexander the Great na isang Griego. So down the line, so mga Greeks yan. So ngayon, itong si Antiochus, ayaw niya na yung mga Jew ay observe nila yung kanilang paniniwala. At gusto niya i-embrace ng mga Jew ang kanilang Greek worship, yung kanilang cultures and yung kanilang customs sa kabuuan ng Jewish people. So kailan yan? Noong around 166 BCE, nagkaroon ng pag-aaklas tuloy ang mga Jew against him. So alam ba ninyo kung ano yung ginagawa nitong si Antiochus IV? So bilang pagsalaula sa temple ng mga Jew, winasak niya yung altar and at the same time nagpagawa siya ng altar at nag-o-offer siya doon ng baboy. Okay? Alam niyo naman na ipinagbabawal na hayop yan sa mga Jew. So nagpagawa siya ng altar, nag-o-offer siya ng baboy doon mismo sa kung saan naroon yung temple na very sacred sa mga Jew. And at the same time, nagpagawa din siya ng statue ni Zeus, the famous Greek god, mythological god. So talagang nilapastangan ito ni Antiochus ang temple na sacred place of worship ng mga Jew. At dahil dyan na nag-spark yung rebellion sa mga Jew. So it was first led by Mattathias of the priestly Hasmonean family and then by his son Judah the Maccabee. Okay? So dyan pumasok ngayon yung tinatawag nating Maccabean revolt against Seleucids. So ang namuno ay pari, okay? Priest. So yan, si Mattathias ang ama ng Hasmonean family. So ngayon, ano nangyari? The Jews successively entered Jerusalem and purified the temple noong 164 BCE. So itong mga Jewish rebels ay nagtagumpay against sa mga Seleucids kay Antiochus IV. So matagumpay nilang nasakop ang Jerusalem, nabawi nila. So kaya anong ginawa ng mga Jew? Yung altar na pinagawa ni Antiochus IV, winasak nila, and then yung statue ni Zeus, mythological god, winasak din nila, and then ni-restore nila yung temple, nagpagawa ulit ng altar, at ibinalik nila yung Jewish worship, proper worship in the temple, and nanumbalik ang sigla ng Jewish worship sa panahon ng Hasmoneans. And then, ito nga yung maganda, no? Nung panahon na yan, dyan din naganap yung tinatawag na yung sineselebrate lang ngayon na Hanukkah, yung Festival of Hanukkah or Festival of Lights. Kasi according sa history, nung sinindihan nila ang candlestick sa temple, okay? Ang oil nun ay sapat lang para magbigay ng liwanag just for one day. But sa hindi may paliwanag na bagay, ay umabot ng 8 days yung oil na hindi natuyo at nanatiling nakailaw yung candlestick in the temple hanggang sa dumating na on the 8th day ang additional supply ng oil na magagamit sa pagsindi ng kandila. Kasi hindi dapat mamatay yung light sa loob ng temple na sa Old Testament yan. So, and because of that miracle, from 7 candlestick, it became 9 candlestick. So, yan yung Hanukkah. Yung 7, ang tawag doon ay menorah. Ang 9 candlestick naman ay Hanukkah. So, yan yung ating dapat na maintindihan sa panahon ng Hasmonean Empire. Another trivia, Sa panahon ng Hasmonean Empire, the Maccabees established a Jewish state ruled by the Hasmonean dynasty. Matatias ang kanyang family name. So kaya mula sa kanyang family name, so na-establish yung Hasmonean dynasty, being the official family name of the leaders of the Maccabees. Additionally, Jewish sects, including those that would eventually be known as Pharisee and Sadducees, emerged at this time. So ayan, kanina sinabi ko nga sa inyo, sa panahon ng Persian Empire, doon nag-rise yung synagogue. Pero sa panahon ng Hasmonean, dito naman nakilala o dito nag-emerge yung mga famous religious groups sa panahon ng Panginoong Kristo, which is yung Pharisees and yung Sadducees. So dyan pa lang yan. So kaya sinasabi natin, sa panahon ng Old Testament, hindi natin mababasa yan. Actually, itong history ng Hasmoneans o ng Maccabees, hindi natin ito mababasa sa Bible. Pero yun, magkakaroon ka ng idea kapag nabasa nyo yung Book of Maccabees. Okay, so pagkatapos ng Maccabean period or yung Hasmoneans, pumasok naman ngayon ang the Roman Empire o yung Roman period. Okay, civil war among the Hasmoneans left the Jewish state ripe for conquest by the growing Roman Empire. So, nagra-rise into power pa lang ang Rome, no? And then, dito naman sa land of Israel, merong struggle sa kapangyarihan. Yung ilan sa mga descendants ng Hasmoneans o Maccabean, kasi nag-aagawan sa kapangyarihan. So, that's normal in the ancient time. So, agawan ng kapangyarihan. So, dahil dyan sa civil war or struggle within the land of Israel, so, naging madali para kay Pompey na mag-extend ng territory dito. So, remember, nabawi na ng mga Jew from the Greeks ang kanilang independency through the leading of the Maccabees. So, mga Jewish yan. And then, nasakop na naman sila ulit ng Roman Empire kasi nga, wala silang pagkakaisa, nag-aagawan sa kapangyarihan at naganap yan noong 63 BCE. And Israel would remain under Roman rule to the end of Second Temple period and beyond. So, napakatagal yan, more than 300 years. And another more years around more or less 300 years pa ulit sa Byzantine, which is mga Romans din iyon. Okay? So napaka-importante ng kapanahunan na ito ng Roman. So ito na tayo. Nandito na tayo banda sa New Testament kasi Romans na. So, pagkatapos ng Greek Empire, so itong mga Romans na ang pumasok sa setting ng New Testament. Okay? So 63 BCE, nasakop ni Pompey ang Jerusalem. And then, noong 37 BCE, si Herod the Great was appointed king of Judea by Mark Antony. So actually, inappoint siya ni Mark Antony to become the king of Judea around 40 BCE. Okay? So ayan. Ito yung basic chronology during the Roman period. 37 BCE. Herod was appointed king of Judea by Mark Antony in 40 BCE, but first captured the throne at 37 BC. So by the way, nung lumakas ang Roman Empire, so magkaibigan itong si Mark Antony at saka si Emperor Augustus. So itong si Mark Antony, yung kalahating bahagi napunta sa kanya ng empire, and then si Augustus naman ay sa kalahating empire din, at ang base ni Augustus ay sa Rome, whereas itong si Mark Antony naman ay sa Alexandria, Egypt. So itong si Mark Antony, siya ang may hawak nitong Israel at siyang nag-appoint kay Herod the Great to become the king of Judea. So that was 40 BC. Kaya lang, meron pang 3 years na nag-lapse bago talaga nakuha ni Herod the Great yung trono. So may mga pangyari pang naganap dyan. Baka magtaka kayo. And then, notable thing pa sa buhay ni Herod the Great ay listen well, no? Si Herod the Great, ang kanyang biological origin ay ito. Yung kanyang mother ay ay nagmula sa Arab origin, at yung kanyang tatay naman ay isang Edomites or Edomian from the south of Judea who was converted into Judaism, sabi nga ni Josephus. Okay. And so according sa history, itong si Herod ay hindi talaga siya Jew. Yung iba tinatawag siyang half Jew because he was converted. His father was converted into Judaism. All right. Tuloy natin. Mahalagang kasaysayan pa, no, sa chronological order ng Roman period, yung crucifixion ng Panginoong Kristo in Jerusalem. So that was around 30 CE. Kasi so around 33 years old ng Panginoong Kristo, so pinanganak siya around 3 or 4 BC to 36 BC, 32 to 36 BC, Paul becomes a follower of Jesus Christ. And then approximately 46 to 65 CE, Paul's missionary journeys, imprisonment, which is recorded in the book of Acts, and letters were written during this period. So around 46 to 65 CE. Yan yung mga panahon na very highlight ang life ni Paul, ang kanyang ministry sa book of Acts, at yung mga sulat na kanyang ginawa o yung mga Pauline epistles like yung Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, Galatians, at saka yung iba pa niya mga sulat. And then approximately 62 to 65 CE, naganap naman ang martyrdom ni Peter and Paul in Rome. So ayan, happy ako kasi nakarating na tayo ng Rome. Nakarating na rin ako actually ng Greece, kami ni Sister Grace. And sa Rome at sa Greece, dalawang beses na kami nakarating doon. So sa Tres Puntanes, kung saan pinugutan ng ulo si Paul, talagang nung unang punta namin, nanghihinayang talaga ako, hindi ko narating yun pero binalikan ko talaga. Binalikan ko talaga yun at narating ko yung lugar kung saan pinugutan ng ulo si Apostle Paul. I hope makita ko pa yung mga pictures namin at may post natin dito. And then 66 CE, outbreak of Jewish war with Rome. So ayan, dahil sinalaula din ang temple once again ng mga Romans, so may mga Jews na nag-aklas ulit sa Rome. And nag-start yan nung 66 CE. And then nung 70 CE, ang mga Romans ay totally destroyed Jerusalem, and they destroyed the temple. Talagang dinimolish nila yung temple in Jerusalem. So yan yung sinasabi ko nga sa inyo kanina doon sa unang bahagi sa panahon ng Persians na na-rebuild ang temple sa panahon ni Ezra. And then ang walls ay na-restore sa panahon ni Nehemiah. And then tumagal hanggang sa panahon ng year 70 CE, and na-destroy once again ang second temple, which is for around 600 years, or more or less 600 years, ay na-destroy ulit ang temple for the second time around. And then 73 CE, naganap naman ang fall of Masada. And very tragic ang nangyari dito sa Masada kasi according sa history, nung sila ay inatake na itong last remnants ng Jewish rebels, instead na sila ay mamatay sa kamay ng mga Romans, mas pinili nilang magpatiwakal o magpakamatay na lang. Pero debatable yan kasi according sa paniniwala ng mga Jew, napaka-imposible na magpakamatay ng mga Jew. So taliwas yan sa kanilang pananampalataya o paniniwala. So maaring sa speculations, maring mayroong isa doon, nagkaroon ng casting of lots. Maring isa doon Nung napunta sa kanya yung Lot, and siya ang pumatay sa almost 1,000 Jewish rebels sa Masada. Kaya kinabukasan, pag akyat ng mga Romans, nadat na nilang patay na lahat ng mga Jewish rebels doon sa tuktok ng Masada. And then, approximately year 80 to 100 CE, other New Testament books was written, like Matthew, Luke, John, Acts, and second generation letters by followers of the original apostles. So, ayan, yung mga naging disciples ng mga original apostles ng Panginoong Kristo ay gumawa din sila ng mga writings nila. Okay? And yan ay naganap sa panahon o sa taon ng 80 to 100 CE. And then 135 CE, 132 CE, Judea was renamed Palestina in an attempt to minimize Jewish identification with the land of Israel. So ito na yung sinasabi natin, na talagang in the Old Testament, this is in no man's land. And then dumating ang mga Canaanites, kaya tinawag itong land of the Canaanites. And then from the land of the Canaanites, pinangako ng Diyos kay Abraham, kay Isaac, and then kay Jacob, ang lupang ito, pamana ng Diyos. And then later on, it was called the land of Israel. But it was never, ever a Palestine land from the very beginning. So nangyari lang yan noong 132 CE. Ang purpose ng Romans ay burahin ang identity ng mga Jew in the land of Israel. So kaya nung may kaguluhan dito sa Israel, nung nakaraan sa Gaza, maraming galit na galit sa akin. Bakit ka mo? Kasi pinipilit nila na Palestine ito, land of Palestine. And mga kapatid, 132 CE lang yan, nag-exist ang pangalang Palestina. In the Old Testament, ang meron, Philistines. And according sa pag-aaral, ang Philistines is not original here in the land of Canaan. They came from Aegean in the land of Greece. At dumayo lang din dito ang mga Philistines. So talagang ang labo. So para yan sa mga hindi nakakaalam talaga ng kasaysayan, na sa mga hindi nakakaalam ng kasaysayan, ini-insist lang that this is Palestine in the beginning, but it's absolutely wrong. And then 135 CE, Jerusalem was rebuilt as a Roman city, and it is called Aila Capitolina or Aila Capitolina. Ayan, okay, natapos natin ang chronology during the Roman period. Ito yung ilang mga events, pagkakasunod-sunod ng mahalagang events na dapat nating maintindihan sa panahon ng Roman period, nang sa ganon ay hindi ka malito sa kabatayan na sa pag-aaral na mismo ng mga books of the Bible.